Like, this is so frustrating. This should not happen. There is no reason that this machine should be telling me that my f***ing power grid isn't working because I am the power grid. Hey guys, before we get into the big story of the week, we're going to start off with a couple of fails that have identical problems, but technically very different solutions. First one here saying, my mom turned on the oven while I was drying some filament. And yeah, don't do that. Do not dry filament where you also cook food. If you want something to dry your filament in that isn't a regular normal filament dryer, go get a toaster oven from the local thrift store. You can get them for pretty cheap. But if you are going to go to a local thrift store, look for food dehydrators instead. Normally you can get a food dehydrator, put a 5-gallon bucket on it. It seems to work pretty well. But with the advent of relatively cheap dryers out there, I don't think it's that big of an ask to just go ahead and get a dryer that's made for the right purposes. And then that way you don't end up getting things like this. Now, it looks like this was found relatively quickly, because the filament itself isn't damaged. You just have the top of the spool flouring and the bottom has no issues either. So I'm imagining there was a coil right above it. That coil turned on, it started to melt, and the smell is what clued mom into, crap, something's not right here. Beyond the fact that you should have a dedicated dryer, let's not discuss the microplastics, toxic fumes, VOCs, and God knows what else that comes off of the filament that is now, in theory, in your oven. And like this person says, buy a dedicated filament dryer. Do not use a domestic oven. Close call, house is filled with smoke. Attempting to dry TPU at 60 degrees Celsius, set on a fan-assisted oven, so it's a convection oven. And the Sunlu TPU has cardboard around it. Thought it would be fine at 60. Learned from my mistake. Here's the thing. We know from the famous book that it takes 451 degrees Fahrenheit to self-ignite cardboard, but ovens operate on what is called bang-bang. That is on-off, where PID is pulsing very, very quickly to get a rough idea of what on or off or 20% on could be, where bang-bang is just on for 10 seconds, off, on for 10 seconds, and off. So ovens will have a tendency to way overshoot or way undershoot and wait for it to come to temp. Civilian ovens, like your standard domestic oven as it was, are not safe to use as filament dryers. And this person got lucky. Hilariously, the best place to have a fire is actually inside of your oven. They are well designed to maintain things that are on fire inside of them, and even further, they're really good at keeping fire on the outside from getting in. But please just go get a dryer. They're not expensive. If you have an AMS, go look at the iBose Tetris or Dias. They're awesome dryers. We have a Tetris here that we've been running for a while. They run great. They're not too expensive. I know Sunlu has a competitor to it as well. Sunlu has the S2, which we quite like. They have the S4, which, it tends to overshoot, quite frankly, and that's more of a problem than I care to admit on that. What do you guys think? Let me know down in those comments below. My name's Grant. This is 3D Musketeers. And hey, while you're down there, don't forget to leave a like and get subscribed to PrintFixFriday, where we help you get your prints back to printing with purpose. And I did want to update something from last week. A lot of you pointed out that I'm an idiot and didn't know what I was looking at when I pointed at that bit right there and said that it is traditionally a capacitor or a relay, when in fact, it definitely says T4A250V. It's a fuse. And I laugh because you would think the fuse would pop before the actual part does, but hey, whatever. In my defense, part of the text is missing because this did melt quite a bit. I just assumed that was part of a code. I should have known better, and I kind of feel like an idiot for not looking at that. But I will say the big benefit of all of this is that we've had a couple of electrical engineers reach out to us to say, hey, would you like an expert to help? Yes, in fact, I would. So we've had a couple of talks now with professional electrical engineers, and hopefully we will have more to report soon as well. Still a developing story. We'll see what happens. In theory, Bamboo's going to be responding, I'm told, by Denise from Tom's Hardware, but I haven't seen that article as of recording this video. Who knew it would take them getting into an article to actually respond? Anyways, just so, and I don't know if it's specifically so, but yeah, I'm gonna hate on Prusa for a bit. So if you love bamboo, stick around, and if you don't, you're gonna stick around too, because tribalism sucks. This is my Core One L, a printer that I would normally be giving like a 9 to a 9.5 right now. We've been running it pretty much non-stop, except for 4 instances. We're gonna talk about those 4 instances since we got back from Formnext. The machine technically has already paid itself off from a business perspective, doing emergency work for clients. It is not technically approved for client work, but on an emergency basis, we will bring things in to assist because, quite frankly, we're out of machines at the certain size and ones that can, properly maintain chamber temperature. I'm looking at you, Cheaty. Your +4s don't maintain chamber temperature, and it's so frustrating. I have woken up to the song of my Core One multiple times in the past couple of weeks, yelling at me for the AC controller fault, saying the power grid is operating outside of specification. And before anybody asks, no, I have not reached out to any of my contacts at Prusa, and I want to know what you guys want to see. If you guys do want us to use the contacts that we have to try to solve this issue, I'm more than happy to, but I also don't know where I'm supposed to draw the line as like a journalist, activist, someone that just wants things to get solved. You guys tell me. Like, I feel like if we have the contacts, smoke them if you got them. But nonetheless, this fault that we've now seen close to half a dozen times on our Core One L has taken it from being one of my favorite printers to a machine that I loathe every single time I go into the shop. By and large, it's always beeping at me, and it has hard failed whatever was in the build, because this is the red screen of death, similar to the blue screen of death, which the machine can also get, and the black screen of death, which the machine can also get. And it says the power grid is operating outside of specification. Here is our basic thought and idea. We live in Florida. Our power grid is not the most stable on the planet. So every single one of our 3D printers, including the entire racks behind me, all the computers, everything, runs on battery backups. In fact, the only thing in this room that doesn't run on battery backup are the main overhead lights. So if for some reason we're streaming and all of a sudden my hair light turns off, it's because the power in this facility died. But we have enough batteries to last for at least 3 hours at full tilt. To give you guys an idea, we don't have issues with batteries. But what's happening is that the power is blipping, and for some reason, the Core One L thinks there's a controller fault! The power grid is not stable! Prusa has designed these machines to be in a business class environment in print farms. There is no reason that this machine should be telling me that my power grid isn't working because I am the power grid. It's being provided. Perfectly clean power. Is it pure sine wave? No, it's not. But you know what doesn't care about pure sine wave? Literally everything else in our shop, including the multiple $10,000+ 3D printers that are in this facility, do not care about pure sine wave versus square wave. We think we have some ideas, but we're working on a solution to try to track this, because today we had a power blip and the machine just kept running. So this leads me to believe that because of the AC heat bed in the Core One L and the way that it must somehow be logging that voltage and that temperature that's going into it, it sees that 4 milliseconds, it's between 4 and 10 milliseconds is normal for a line reactive UPS, and like some of the really slow ones are up in like the 20 or 30 millisecond range. But in that literal blink of an eye, the controller happens to be looking for the voltage and it doesn't see any, and it thinks, oh crap, there's a short, and instantly cuts power. And like, okay, fine, but let me turn off the feature, or let me change how often it checks. No other Prusa printer actually cares behind me. Like, seriously, this entire rack has ran for 4 days on battery before. 4 days. No issues whatsoever. Yes, there's a massive battery behind me. And to me, this is a game-breaking problem. This is an $1,800+ 3D printer. This is not a $500 3D printer. It is the current flagship from Prusa, and I am very much looking forward to putting an index on it, but it shouldn't have these problems. All the other Prusas don't care. The Cheaties don't care. The Bamb-Boo doesn't care. This takes the machine from being something that, in my current testing, it is more reliable, it is easier to use, it gives better surface quality, it is faster, and it warps less than prints that come out of the Cheaty Plus 4. Those are all things that we like to see. That would give me a, hey, go spend close to 3 times the amount of money on a Core One L over a Plus 4. 2, Prusa needs to fix this before I can recommend this machine. It is so frustrating to me that an $1,800 machine that is designed to be in a farm environment, Prusa literally has them on their freaking farms, can't handle being on a UPS. And when you scan this code, it takes you to this, where it literally says, avoid using UPS units or generators. Homie, we all don't live in an area with reliable power. I live in Florida. We have a thing called hurricanes, and we have a more popular and well-known thing called Florida Man, which is responsible for most of my power outages. And like, this is so frustrating. This should not happen. These machines need to be able to operate on a UPS, on a generator, with square wave power or pure sine wave power, and I shouldn't have to go buy a $930 UPS. And I'm sorry, but when you are building a machine that is designed for the high-end consumer, prosumer, and light industrial market, especially the business market, it needs to be able to run on a UPS or a generator. Hi, my name's Grant. I'm looking to build a fully off-grid 3D print farm. That includes solar power with full conversion. Now, that will be pure sine wave, but there will be times where we are doing switchovers from external power sources to internal power sources. That is going to have a switchover time. It's normally in the 4 millisecond range. I can't just be working in my office and we switch from, oh, the solar panels are providing the entire bit of power to, okay, now we're gonna pull it from the batteries, and then all the Core Ones error out in a way that is unrecoverable. The failures that the Core One L has given us for this one problem alone have accounted for over 8 kilograms of waste. Like normal, you go to Prusa support. Just so you want a bit of a secret for dealing with Prusa support. If you go to Prusa support and there's a whack ton of wait time, stay up late. Look at the times when I was talking with Prusa support. Talk to them late at night. Late at night in the US, most of Europe is asleep. You don't have to deal with that at all. I literally waited for less than a minute to talk to somebody, and they confirmed there is apparently no way to deal with this. And while, sure, you could try to trust the power loss recovery, I found that it always doesn't go to exactly the same spot, so you might have a little bit of shifting. It's not a ton, and when you're doing functional parts, it's probably not that big of a deal, but it's kind of a big deal because it takes from a machine that I can trust to do work in our business to one that I now have to babysit. These are all problems that we have to look at and say, is this a me problem or a them problem? And yeah, it's a Prusa problem. This to me is a relatively easy firmware fix, but we need to find a way that we can basically guarantee that this happens every single time. We have to make the failure repeatable. And since it's been repeatable every single time until today, literally earlier today, was the first time that my UPS triggered when we had a power outage and the machine kept going. So I'm like, well, there goes my entire idea for this video. Now it kind of sort of triggers most of the time. But I don't like that. I want the machine to still be printing. That's what an uninterruptible power supply does. It's what it's there for. And whether it is a modified sine wave or a pure sine wave should not matter. Other AC devices don't care. There is no reason the Core One L should either. And certainly not for the price that you're paying. And yes, I did not pay for my Core One L, right? There's your, oh, he's a shill moment. Oh my God, we got him, boys. Everybody that loves Bamb-Boo, he's a Prusa shill. I don't just hate Bamb-Boo. I hate all companies that have issues with accountability and run away from problems. The reason you don't see me bashing Prusa is because when we bring problems to them, they fix them. They acknowledge them. VFA issues, they acknowledged it. And as far as my Core One L is concerned, it's basically gone. And I'm doing really big white parts. It is impossible to hide VFAs on those parts. But there is no reason that this machine should be this freaking sensitive to power. It should not happen. And especially on a machine of this price. And especially when they are selling critical infrastructure editions of these machines. Critical infrastructure does not normally have a critical infrastructure of power. They are often going to be running on generators, UPSs, multiple redundant battery backup systems because they need online time. They need uptime. If the power's a little bit dirty, that's on the device to handle, not their generators or UPSs to handle. I posted about this on Twitter, asking if it could be bypassed, and yeah, apparently I'm not the only one that's been getting it. Matt Stoltz has had it, Alan Mandick has had it, and I love that we end up having people that know so much more about this stuff than I do. It's what I love about this. And I know, so far, to me, has the winning answer, right? Those few milliseconds while the UPS switches over the batteries is smoothed out by the device's power supply. They convert AC to DC, but the AC bed does not do that, so those few milliseconds are too much for it, and that's why they suggested an online UPS. Those online UPSs are so ungodly expensive, and they require massive battery stacks to do it right. So I'd love to know what you guys think down below, because I don't know. This one, it is so frustrating to me. Like, I walk into the shop, and I'm like listening for the beep, 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 beep that the Core One L does when it's angry, and I'm looking for that red screen, and I look, I don't see it, and I breathe a sigh of relief. That is not what I should do when I come in to check on my machines. I should be coming in to make sure that everybody's got filament, everybody's happy, and I shouldn't be stressed and worried, especially for a machine of this price category. But suffice to say, this machine that's a 9 or a 9.5 right now is down at a 4. It's a great printer, it prints well, but if you're going to be worried about whether or not it's going to finish all the time, we've got a problem. It leaves me in a position where I get to ask a fun question. In theory, we're going to be using a Raspberry Pi powered power monitor so that we can monitor everything from voltage, amperage, frequency, sine wave. We can measure all of this with these power management kits. But ultimately, we want to get something that we can measure everything with. If you are aware of power monitoring devices out there, we want ones that can run fully local. No cloud, no internet, no nothing. They can log remotely. We can set up our own server here and run Grafana locally. A Pi was the first thing that came to mind for me as well. I am not against fully DIYing something, so if you have a PCB design that works really well for this, then hey, let's order some PCBs to get the parts in and get them assembled. I want to be able to measure this kind of stuff. And I think long term, for testing 3D printers, for checking power consumption, things like that, this could actually be quite valuable from a testing perspective. Let's sink some money into it, but let's make it a fun community project where you guys get to have a bit of say in it as well. So if you have knowledge in this industry and want to be able to assist, please let me know down in those comments. And if you have specific links that you need to send, DM them to us. You can @ me on Discord, just @ 3D Musketeers on Discord. Email us, whatever. We'd love to get assistance from you guys so that we can kind of build the ideal power monitoring system and then be able to start logging power usage so that we can track, okay, this machine draws, the Core One L draws about 650 watts, and then it settles to about 150 to 170 while it's printing. But we could track exactly what that looks like. And we could also track every time the power cuts out and what that looks like for that switchover time. There's so many things that we could be tracking. We could utilize this system to track the actual heater wires to the bed of the machine, the power input wires. There's so many things that we could use a system like this for. And while, yes, it's not going to be as accurate or as detailed as an O-scope, your boy doesn't have multi-$1,000 Rigel or Keysight money. I mean, look, Rigel, Keysight, whomever, I have an old Tektronix oscilloscope, but it uses a CRT, so it definitely doesn't do logging. If you guys want to hook me up, hook it friggin' up. I'm not going to say no. But otherwise, we do want to look at long-term logging with something like a Raspberry Pi. So if you want to be involved in that, let us know. And hey, jump in the Discord. Once we figure out what we're going to do, we're going to have an entire area dedicated to this as a project. And if there is anything special that we happen to create, we will, of course, release the files to our community at no added cost to them. And those names at the $5 tier and higher are listed right next to me. Thank you guys for making videos like this possible, where we get to have a little bit of fun and obviously prove that we just don't hate bamboo. I like bamboo. I know it's crazy to people. What I don't like are machines that are fire hazards and, you know, ones that give you random red screens of death for reasons that they shouldn't give you. It is stupid, and I cannot fathom how this was not fixed somehow before the stupid thing shipped. Thankfully, I do think this is something that can be fixed in firmware, so in theory, I shouldn't have to do anything, and I can just be like, Yindrik, hi, got a problem. Let's talk about it. Anyways, huge thank you to them if you do want to, you know, enjoy more of these rants, including my entire dilemma of trying to mount 3 kilograms to use in a Cheaty Plus 4. It has been a challenge, to say the least. You'll enjoy our Discord, of course, where we do hangouts as well, where last week I was working on my car for like 3 hours while hanging out with you guys. So that's all I have for you all today. Happy New Year 2026. And hey, get out there and make something cool. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Look who's here. It's the cat. You can get Victoria t-shirts at shop.3dmusketeers.com. She's thrilled. I promise you.